A warm welcome to all of you. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the session on the dialogue on the automotive segment and business opportunities in KIZAD, Khalifa Industrial Zone, Middle East and the UAE. A warm welcome to all of you on behalf of Maratha Chamber of Commerce, Industries and Agriculture, and KIZAD. Strategically situated in the heart of the GCC, KIZAD's dedicated auto cluster offers the ideal location for manufacturers, part makers, distributors, and aftermarket products and service providers looking to serve the automotive markets in the Middle East, Africa, India, and Europe. With an overall area of 410 square kilometers, KIZAD offers unmatched connectivity to markets, access to raw materials, presence of key auto parts, manufacturers, and the state-of-the-art infrastructure facilities, including an advanced Ro-Ro terminal at the Khalifa Port. In this webinar, we bring together leading experts from the auto cluster commercial team to present an overview on the Middle East auto market, as well as the key advantages for companies to establish their base of operations in Abu Dhabi. With this, a warm welcome to all our participants, a warm welcome to our speakers for today. We have with us Mr. Mansoor Marar. He is the Director Commercial Zone, KIZAD. Venkata Pisipaty, he is the Auto Cluster Head of KIZAD. Mr. Hemant Padhye, he is the Director Pro Business Innovations. Mr. Brent Melvin, he is the CEO of Gallega Global Logistics. And Mr. Padhye, KIZAD India representative. With this, I would like to begin today's panel discussion. I would like to invite Mr. Mansoor Marar to present his views on the overview and focus of the KIZAD industrial region. Mansoor has over 10 years of experience spanning the energy and industrial sector, as well as attracting foreign direct investments. He has in-depth experience in driving the strategy and operations of developing industrial clusters across multiple segments, metals, polymers, food and agri-pharma, and logistics. Mansoor is the Director Commercial KIZAD, and we look forward to hearing from you, Mr. Mansoor. Welcome on board.
Thank you very much, Manjari, and it's extremely great pleasure to be with you and with our esteemed panelists and registered participants here in this event today. Obviously, this is a great opportunity to get together and discuss a very interesting and very important topic that really plays a lot of role in the development of huge economic sectors within the region. So I would start my speech today by welcoming you all again to this webinar, and I hope that you find this webinar very useful in terms of exploring further opportunities. So over the course of the past year, and obviously with the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic, and its great impact on the world economy and the shifting dynamics of the global businesses significantly, especially for the automotive industry, we believe today that together with financial, political, and country risks arising, we see today that geographical risks also are affecting the decision-making process and ultimately impacting global supply chains. The entire automotive industry is dependent on global network of suppliers, and this goes by default, with parts originating in one country and often passing through several parties in other countries before being manufactured and assembled into one final automobile product in areas such as Asia, Europe, and the United States, etc. This such situation can create a lot of risk, especially with the current pandemic and the restriction of movements across the globe. And the concept of having a single mega manufacturing base may no longer be a sustainable option. Companies today, we have seen, are also driven towards making their supply chain more resilient by boosting inventories, enlisting, for example, alternative suppliers closer to their home, and by also embracing technology, which is a key part in the development of the supply chain. Alternatively, also India-based manufacturers may also look to spread their capabilities to multiple locations across geographies and creating also added inventory base closer to consumption markets. That's very key also, and we've seen this as part of the new trend that is moving within the automotive supply chain value chain. When we look at today, the market in the Middle East and North Africa, which is estimated to be also reaching almost 600 million people by 2021, of which almost 60 million are residing within the GCC, this holds a lot of opportunities for the automotive industry to grow within the Middle East and North Africa region. And also, if we look specifically to the UAE is serving as one of the largest auto hubs in the region. Here in Abu Dhabi, for example, we import for the region and local markets and re-export from Middle East to high-performing markets in Asia and Africa. The UAE is one of the highest re-exporters of automotive within the region. And this is mainly driven by the strong infrastructure that exists and the policies and regulations that allows for the easy movement of the automotive industry. If we look specifically to Abu Dhabi and KIZAD, it lies in close proximity to major auto markets also and provides direct access to raw materials such as polymers, aluminum, and steel also, and other products. Additionally, also our automotive cluster features excellent infrastructure facilities, which includes an advanced Ro-Ro terminal at Khalifa Port. It is the region's largest deepwater semi-automated port. Also within KIZAD auto cluster, today it is already home to many companies specialized in the storage and distribution of completely built up automobiles, re-exporting of new cars, manufacturing and distribution of auto components and equipments. Currently, investments and developments in the pipeline includes used car markets, last mile customization, fully systemized auction houses, basic component manufacturing, automotive manufacturing, and a retail market for the auto industry. At KIZAD, we are well positioned to deliver to Indian auto manufacturers the best solutions for their businesses and unique offerings that is globally competitive, sustainable, and cost-effective opportunities. Through our synergies with our sister companies, we offer prospective clients a plethora of solutions within the port, maritime, logistics, and digital portfolios, as well as under the umbrella of Abu Dhabi Ports. We look forward to engaging with you all and welcoming you in Abu Dhabi and KIZAD, and hope that you find today's session very insightful and fruitful in terms of opening up opportunities for the automotive industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mansoor. That was a very insightful presentation on the facilities that KIZAD region offers. With this, I would like to invite Mr. Venkata Pisipaty. He is the head of the auto cluster of KIZAD, and he's going to talk to us the great opportunity for manufacturing and distribution that the region offers. A brief introduction of Mr. Venkata. Venkata leads the business development delivery for KIZAD's automotive cluster. He has over 20 years of experience in both operational and commercial roles across a range of companies in the shipping, ports, and terminals, logistics and supply chain space in Southeast Asia, Africa, and the Middle East regions. Mr. Venkata will provide a detailed insight into KIZAD's auto cluster that supports the auto manufacturing and allied industries. Welcome, Mr. Pisipaty. Over to you.
First of all, a very good morning to everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to present to all of you the incredible journey that KIZAD has had and bring you all up to speed on the developments here. As we start with the session, it's important to highlight just how much Abu Dhabi has further consolidated its position as a preferred global industrial investment destination, built on three fundamental parameters: diversification, industrialization, and as a result, reduced dependency on hydrocarbons. And to support this compelling vision, Abu Dhabi's ranking in the Ease of Doing Business Index has gone up extremely fast, several levels, and is placed at number 12 in the world today. I can assure you the position in this index is set to go up even higher in the near medium term. To ensure this momentum is maintained, we not only have a professional business lab, we also political system. All investors and workers here in Abu Dhabi are extremely proud to be counted as economies globally as per World Happiest City in the Arab region, as per World Happiness Report, the world as per Interrations, and be part of the top 25 best cities for expatriates globally as per Numbeo. We are Abu Dhabi Ports. KIZAD is a wholly owned subsidiary of Abu Dhabi Ports. The industrial zones portfolio under Abu Dhabi Ports consists of 4 industrial areas. KIZAD is located right in the middle of Dubai and Abu Dhabi cities. As we go into Abu Dhabi city, we have the industrial city of Abu Dhabi, popularly known as ICAD. Towards the east, located close to the Oman border, is the Alain industrial city, and Anfaya industrial city is in the middle of Abu Dhabi and the eastern province. Together, these industrial zones comprise of over 1,500 companies. And the 4 industrial areas are an important integral part of Abu Dhabi's Economic Vision 2030 and directly contributes to the diversification drive of Abu Dhabi. KIZAD is the region's largest industrial zone with a total land bank of 410 square kilometers. And to give you some comparison in scale, when you compare KIZAD with Singapore, we are 2/3 the size of the entire Singapore. As you can see from the slide, the zone is spread across 2 areas on either sides of the Sheikh Zayed E11 highway. One of the most unique features is that KIZAD hosts both domestic land and free zone areas in the same ecosystem. And most importantly, we are integrated with Khalifa Port. And as a port integrated platform, we target to contribute at least 15% of Abu Dhabi's non-oil GDP by 2030. From a location perspective, as you can see, KIZAD and Khalifa Port as an integrated platform is based right at the center of the Northern Emirates, covering Dubai and Sharjah and in the Western region. The goods and services that need to be employed targeting large GCC markets have to necessarily pass through KIZAD, even when served from, let's say, Dubai or Sharjah. We are located closest to the Saudi Arabian border on the western side and closest to the Oman border on the eastern. And where UAE is concerned, we are located, as you can see, right in the center of the country. For connections within the UAE, there is unparalleled easy access to highways like Mohammed bin Zayed 311 that connects the entire length and breadth of the UAE. The success and developments of Khalifa Port has been integral to the developments and success we have had at KIZAD. Khalifa Port hosts 2 container terminals, each having concession agreements, one with Mediterranean Shipping Company, which is one of the largest shipping lines in the world, and the other with COSCO. We have a terminal dedicated to the services of the with Auto Terminal Barcelona. And recently, this year, Abu Dhabi Ports has set up a 50-year concession agreement with Arabian chemical tankers for handling of chemicals. While we have seen the hard infrastructure has been set up and commissioned, but we have always realized just how important it is to set up the soft infrastructure in parallel to ensure that these investments are serviced and experienced in the best possible manner. Today, KIZAD is well-oiled and integrated with a strong digital platform and capability. The digital arm under Abu Dhabi Ports that integrates KIZAD with all government stakeholding bodies, shipping lines, agents, airports, and the many other players is Makta Gateway. And as I just said, Makta Gateway is as well a wholly owned subsidiary of Abu Dhabi Ports. A simple illustration of the enormous system integrations is reflected best where KIZAD offers as many as 84 digital services online. And these include online payments, submissions and processing of documentation for government approvals. It's eliminated, most importantly, the need for customers to be physically present here and submit their hard copies at our counters. And our services include mobile interface features, SMS notifications that are enabled, and most importantly, and the more complex, real-time updates on approvals from government, just in order to boost client experience at KIZAD. While all industry sectors are welcome at KIZAD, we focus on 8 industry verticals, as you can see on the slide. We are here today to discuss the automotive cluster, and so let's straight do a deep dive into what makes KIZAD the ideal platform for auto players. With the UAE offering the best risk-reward ranking in the entire Middle East, North African region for auto industry players, with as many as close to 3 million vehicle sales in the region and a population in excess of 550 million people, it really isn't surprising that UAE enjoys a growth rate of 9% in terms of total vehicle trade and a compounded annual growth rate of 2% just in terms of new vehicle sales. All this apart from a total annual trade for auto parts and accessories alone touching close to $8 billion US. When you put all of this together and then see the motorization rates in the UAE being as high as 234 to 1,000 people, it's not difficult to see why KIZAD in the UAE is an ideal automotive platform for the industry. Large and successful companies in the auto space have always chosen KIZAD as their regional hub. Al Futtaim and Ghassan Abood run their largest distribution platforms at KIZAD. The CEO of Ghassan Abood, logistics wing. Add to this, companies like Talix Aluminium manufacture components for large auto OEMs. So the Porsches, the Bentleys, and the Land Rovers around the world feature components manufactured right here in KIZAD. Over and above this, early last year, we saw a huge tire manufacturing company break ground for a manufacturing facility at KIZAD. So by end of 2021, we will have approximately 10 million car radials produced on an annual basis in KIZAD. So when you put sector requirements on the cost side and see how KIZAD can potentially qualify, it's very clear that there is significant leverage that investors can draw, especially on the two largest cost drivers for the industry, namely raw material and labor. Let's delve a little deeper into this. On the raw material side, as you can see, it's of significant relevance that KIZAD hosts the largest premium aluminium producer in the world, namely Emirates Global Aluminium, popularly known as EGA. We also host Borouge, who is amongst the world's largest petrochemical players, and the company dedicates plastic solutions for the auto industry with a range of specialty products and compounds used for various processes of auto parts. Abu Dhabi is also home to Emirates Steel, who have one of the largest upstream operations in the region, with product lines again dedicated to serve the auto industry. So when you have approximately over 70% of an automobile's raw material that's accessible on one single platform, it surely reflects fantastic leverage opportunities for investors at KIZAD. So what's the value proposition that an investor can access? It's broadly defined under 5 main levers: cost, speed, and scale on the one side, the predictability quotient for investors to draw maximum efficiency, and a community platform where we regularly host our companies together and create business and networking opportunities for our investors. While KIZAD qualifies on a number of levels as the best location on cost and speed parameters, it becomes extremely important for startup and first-time investors in the region to have scale so as to ensure they can test run their business model and phase out their market reach in the best possible manner. At KIZAD, businesses can initiate their presence with a simple license, follow that up with a warehouse that's pre-built by us, and then acquire land as the business grows. We have pre-built warehouses and light industrial units with office sizes ranging from as small as 300 square meters up until 1,100 square meters. One aspect we are yet to cover is the fact that KIZAD has one of the most competitively priced and structured business setup and facilities in the country. Just to give you all a very quick overview, our packages include pre-approval fees, annual workstation lease, establishment card fees, and discount packages on license issuances and renewals. And now, apart from all this, the Abu Dhabi government has stepped in and has exempted registration and license fees for 2 years and has essentially kind of waived security deposits for all workstation facilities as well. We spoke about how important building a strong community ecosystem is to us. With all primary and secondary infrastructure already in place, set up and delivered, our next phase of developments include labor accommodation facilities, a community center, a truck terminal for truck maintenance, repair, and parking. And apart from all this, we are also setting up residential areas and leisure facilities just to ensure that all investors and workers in KIZAD are able to achieve the right level of work-life balance. And lastly, in summary, it's very important would be to recognize and understand why Abu Dhabi has been at the forefront in terms of industrial investments in the country. We have a favorable policy framework around industrial investments, and Abu Dhabi has an upstart due to its long-standing mature industrial base. We work closely with the banking and financial sector for project finance support to investors, so strategic investments. Last but not the least, the monetary policy in the country, driven by a strong federal initiative at Abu Dhabi, ensures competitive finance costs. And very importantly, we have a currency that's pegged to the US dollar. Now, the UAE not only has all the characteristics of an emerging economy, but is also a dollar-based economy, which essentially means there is zero currency fluctuations, zero currency risks for investors, and as a result, it nets higher IRR ratios for investors. And on that note, I'd like to thank you all for being here with us today on this very important webinar, and I look forward to working with all of you to have your investments gain more efficiency at KIZAD. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Venkata Pisipaty. You gave us a very good overview on the auto cluster and elaborated on the presence of large companies and the existence of a strong digital platform and the government and private collaborations. Thank you very much. With this, I would like to invite our next panelist, Mr. Hemant Padhye. I would like to introduce Mr. Hemant Padhye. He's going to speak on diversifying manufacturing to UAE, a game changer for the Indian auto sector. Mr. Hemant comes from the automotive powertrain industry, having 33 years of industrial experience. He has worked with General Motors, Tata Motors, Western USA, Kirloskar Group in the Middle East. His domain expertise is in the field of automotive engineering and program management. He's an expert in electric vehicles and electric drives. He has worked very closely with automotive Tier 1 suppliers and was part of the localization of powertrains in India, the Greenfield project. He has built and managed sizable design teams in India to support global engineering work. Also built and managed successfully PT application teams. He has successfully set up a free zone enterprise in the UAE and increased business manifold. A warm welcome to Mr. Padhye. Over to you.
Yeah, good morning, everyone, and thanks for giving me this opportunity to present my ideas in this today's seminar. Thanks to Mr. Venkata for wonderful presentation where he explained multiple benefits and how the MSMEs and the companies, automotive companies in India can take advantage of that and increase their business. So my topic today is once somebody like MSMEs or the automotive companies, Tier 1 companies from India decide to invest into a free zone, what are the options they have and where are the business opportunities in the region which they would like to tap? So today's presentation, my presentation will revolve around that. So my agenda for today is I will talk about briefly about the key factors. Then I will talk about opportunities for automotive Tier 1. So because there are some participants who are from the Tier 1, they are the Tier 1 automotive suppliers. Then I'll also talk about the opportunities for auto parts exporters. Then opportunities for auto OEMs and what is the way forward. So this is a brief agenda for today. So I will start with my first topic, which is the key factors. So I have identified a few key factors which any business would like to consider before investing into any overseas operations or for that matter, operations in the free zone. So the first one is very important, which is the ever increasing cooperation between India and UAE. Over the period of time, multiple agreements have been signed, cooperation has been developed between these two countries, and it is ever increasing. So that gives a commitment to both the countries and the manufacturers in both the countries to move forward and take this cooperation to the next level. Then there is a possibility and long-term association with the OEMs in the Middle East. So we'll identify who are these OEMs in my subsequent slides and how the cooperation can be built with them and association can be developed for long-term business prospects. Then how do we increase the business through easy access to GCC and MENA markets, that is Middle East and North African markets for spare parts. Then the next one is MSMEs can scale up their business with more exposure or connectivity. I think Mr. Venkata has already covered this in detail. Facilities offered by Free Zone can be leveraged to increase the connectivity and the exposure for the MSMEs. Then Mr. Venkata also touched upon the diversification of business and reducing risk in pandemic situations like COVID. So I understand when I was talking to one of the colleagues from KIZAD that during pandemic, this time, tough times, the businesses were not really impacted because the entire setup was available within the campus, within the free zone, and the business was disrupted to a very little extent. So as I mentioned, I will focus on 3 opportunities. First one is for the possibility of sustained and long-term association with auto OEMs in Iran. So that is a case study I'm going to take. So by the way, this is a picture I have taken from one of the auto OEMs in Iran. His name is Iran Khodro. GCC and MENA markets for automotive spare parts and aftermarket. And then we'll talk about how do we optimize the logistics and distribution to maximize the profit. So let's talk about opportunities for automotive tier ones, especially focusing around Iran auto OEMs. So this slide shows the passenger car produced in Iran from 2005 all the way up to 2019. And you will see that there was a dip in the production because of the US embargo, US sanctions. But again, the sanctions are lifted now, and we expect the business to grow. And these numbers are substantial. So at one point of time, the passenger cars produced in 2011 were almost 1.5 million, which is a huge number. If you want to compare how are the volumes in India, I have tried to capture the volumes in India. So we are close to in between 3 million to 3.5 million. Again, we are also impacted because of the COVID situation here in India. So there is a dip in 2019 as well as 2020, but it is again going to go up in the coming years. Same is the case with Iran. So there are multiple reports and the developments which are happening in both these countries, Iran and India, which tells us how the volumes are going to grow up. So these are the projections which multiple reports and the agencies are predicting in India as well as in Iran. And I have captured it from the published data, and we expect that the volumes for Iran will cross or will come close to about 2 million vehicles by 2025, and India will be going to almost 4.5, close to 4.5 millions by 2025. And these numbers are a little bit calibrated again here because of the COVID situation. But both these countries are planning to put more investment into it. So I'll consider a few critical factors which are going in favor of both these countries on Iran market, because most of the exporters from India would like to understand how do they really get into Iranian market. So Iranian market is the largest in the Middle East, expected to become one of the fastest growing markets in the world. They are expecting to double the production or even triple the production in next decade. There is a huge population of 80 million people in Iran itself. Then there is a pent-up demand because of the sanctions for so many years. So there is an aging population of vehicles. So people would like to replace their vehicles with new vehicles. And lifting of sanctions, which has already fueled foreign investment. So a lot of foreign investment companies have already started investing into Iran. And you will see in my subsequent slides that how the investment is going to happen and how the volume is going to go multifold. So I'll talk about few leading OEMs in Iran. The first one is Iran Khodro. They have their own brand called Saman, and they're also producing vehicles for PSA, Geely, basically the Citroen and Peugeot vehicles. The second one is Kerman Motors. They have joined hands with Jack from China, and they are making SUVs and passenger cars for Iranian market as well as for exports. Third leading OEM is called Saipa, and they have a joint venture with Kia from Korea. And then the fourth one is the Pars Khodro. Again, their own brands as well as they are making technical joint ventures with European automakers to produce vehicles in Iran. Then there are other OEMs. One of them is Bhawan Motors. They are into heavy-duty trucks, where they have a JV with FAW, that is from China, to make the trucks in Iranian markets and also for exports. Then I have covered two examples who are the large manufacturers in Iran. One is Motorsazan, who is making engines from the smallest engines to the largest engines for multiple applications, right from automotive applications, off-highway, agricultural equipment, gensets, etc. And IDM also is Iran manufacturers. So these are the two leading companies who are making the engines there. And then there are other auto OEMs, which I will not cover in detail, but one is MVM, and then there is Iran Tractor Manufacturing Company. So these are the leading manufacturers of automotive vehicles, especially passenger cars and the engines. And as far as the tier one suppliers in Iran is concerned and the ecosystem in Iran, there are more than 1,200 automotive parts suppliers already in Iran, supporting all these OEM requirements. I will briefly cover what is the situation, not that the entire situation is pertaining to automotive, but just to give a flavor that what is the breakup, what is the ecosystem in Iran. There are about 500 industrial parks, 322 industrial zones, 3 special economic zones, and some allied support systems like science parks and technological and business services centers. So I would like to list down the leading tier one suppliers so that everybody understands how the ecosystem is working there. We have Bahman Group, Cezanne Gostar, IPMC, Monavri, and then Satco. These are the leading part manufacturers who are supporting the activities in automotive sector, especially for the passenger cars. Apart from this, there is an import happening. This is slightly old number, but I want to collect the recent latest number. I could not find it. But it gives an idea that there are imports happening from China, Korea, and some other countries, which are being used for the manufacturing of the vehicles. Now, in this situation, you will get a flavor of what's happening in Iranian market and what are the opportunities available there. So, in my next, I have covered few aspects of how the Indian companies can really tap. There are some Indian companies who have established business relationship with this automotive OEMs there. But for the larger audience who are participating in today's seminar, there is an opportunity in participating in upcoming vehicle programs for tier one suppliers. Then there is an opportunity for co-development of parts, technologies for meeting future regulations, and also to take part in the key components aggregate identified by OEMs for localization. So each OEM has published or given their requirements that what they're looking for. For example, one of the leading auto OEMs from Iran has already identified 97 different components and the subsystems where they would like to have cooperation, either technology, joint venture, or in terms of participation. Now, why I'm covering this here is because to operate from free zone and cater to their requirements. As everybody knows that the automotive product development cycles are long cycles, needs a lot of one-to-one or face-to-face meeting, lot of travel to the OEMs, understand their requirements and co-develop parts with them. So since I have worked myself in the free zone few years back, and I have actually visited some of these OEMs in my earlier career, so it is extremely easy to work from a free zone and support to their requirements rather than operating from India and try to develop this relationship with them. It is relatively difficult to do that. So taking the advantage of the free zone, setting up a technical office or a representative office there to start with, and then grow the business from there. And as the opportunities develop with the OEMs in Iran, you can increase the your operations in the free zone. So that is the reason I thought I will cover this as my first case study. Then let me go to the second, which is the opportunities for the auto parts exporter. So basically, I have covered the first. I'm going to cover the fleet analysis and then the opportunity. So if you consider the Middle Eastern market, there is already a huge population of passenger cars. Almost 35 million cars are there already on the road. How much spare parts they need? I have tried to case study here. You'll realize that the Iran being the largest market, the spare parts requirement from Iran, which is shown in this blue color on this slide here, is the largest, followed by and the other countries here. If you see similar requirement from the North African countries, which are a part of the MENA trade zone, that is Middle East and North Africa, you will realize that the passenger car population in this region, including the rest of the, to about 33 million passenger cars. And if you consider these four countries, Morocco, Algeria, Libya, and Egypt, that covers almost 50% of the fleet population and the amount of business they're doing for the spare parts. And then the black portion of this pie chart shows the rest of the Africa, how much spare parts are being used from their side. Similarly, I have done a calculation and collected data commercial, the LCVs and the commercial vehicles. Again, you'll see that the Saudi market is the largest market for spare parts for the commercial vehicles and the trucks business, followed by Iran, UAE, and then the other countries in the smaller percentages. If you consider the commercial vehicle requirement or the current population of commercial vehicles in African countries, the population is 13 million vehicles at this point of time. By the way, this data is 2018 data, so I couldn't find 2019 data, but the trend will be on the similar line. So you'll get a flavor of what's happening in this region. And the major of the business from Algeria, Morocco for the commercial vehicles, followed by the rest of the Africa, and small portion by Libya, and a very small portion by Egypt for the commercial vehicles. I want to really understand in terms of value, how much is the opportunity in this region. So current spare part markets, and this is again a 2018 number, for the auto parts and the aftermarket requirement, the current portion or the current value is about 28 billion US dollars, and which is likely to go, and then from the MENA countries, it is about 3.17 billion US dollars. And it is likely to go to about, say, 40 billion by 2024, and US dollar again 40 billion by 2024 for the remaining North African and the remaining African countries. So if you want to focus on the MENA countries, there is a huge potential which can be realized if you are based in the free zone and you have an operation there, because that's the commitment for you are demonstrating to your customers that you are in the region, you are there to support them for their requirements. If need be, stock these parts and give them the faster deliveries. So that is an opportunity for the people or traders or exporters who are engaged in the spare parts business to relocate or locate in the free zone and start operating from there and be a part of this larger ecosystem for the auto spare parts. So question comes in mind that what kind of spare parts? Our presentation today is a very short presentation. So if you take a pie chart, so if you are jumping from, say, in the automotive sector, spare parts business from 28 billion to, say, 39 billion for the passenger cars, what would be the breakup? So this is just a rough estimate I have from one of the reports published in Dubai. So you have about 26% for tires, 11% for lubricants, then about 3 to 4% for axles and transmission components, 2% air and oil filters, 2% or plus slightly on the suspension system, batteries about 2%, and brake pads and brake shoes about close to 2%. And the remaining is into the radiators, exhaust, electrical components, which is taking almost 50% of the breakup. So depending on which are your focus areas, you can devise your marketing strategies, develop your contacts, start your operation in a small way in the region, and then try to be a part of this bigger ecosystem. Then the last but not the least, there are multiple opportunities, but for today's presentation, I have taken only 3 opportunities. Opportunities for the auto OEMs. The detail I want to explain because in the earlier presentation, already a lot of focus has been given on this aspect, but OEMs can relook at their global outbound logistics and work out most optimum distribution network using multiple options like available through zones in UAE and can save substantial cost. I think this topic was covered in the earlier in a much elaborate way. And many leading automotive OEMs have optimized and demonstrated how beneficial it is to optimize the logistics using algorithm and using free zone as distribution hub. So I think when I was interacting with some of the exporters who are already exporting globally, but changing their hub from India to one of the leading free zones in UAE, they have saved substantial amount of money just by re-optimizing and relooking into their distribution structure, and that in saving the money. So these are the 3 opportunities covered today in our brief sales presentation. So what is the way forward? So I just have a few suggestions and some recommendations for OEMs. Automotive product development cycles OEMs are quite long, hence a representative office technical sales at free zone will be extremely beneficial. This can facilitate quick visits to say nearby countries like Iran, but I did not cover the other countries, Azerbaijan and Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan and Egypt, where there are also emerging manufacturers who are already doing close to about 500,000 vehicles. And the advantage is people who are already supplying to those OEMs. So if you are a supplier to Ford, if you are a supplier to GM in India, or you are supplier to some of the Korean and other OEMs in India, they are the same OEMs in this region where you can extend your approvals, extend your products to the markets by operating through the free zone. So approvals of the Indian OEMs can be used for a faster entry. And as I mentioned, Uzbekistan, Egypt, and Morocco can be tapped. Also, Kazakhstan can be tapped from working from the free zone. For the spare parts business, physical presence in MENA market is key to success, and operating from free zone is an advantage. So multiple avenues to interact with traders, importers is possible a way of demonstrating presence in the market. So sitting in India, your opportunities may be there, but may be limited. Operating within the zone, within the market can improve the prospects of increasing the business. So a small office or a stock of fast moving parts will be a good start. So with that, I would like to end my presentations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hemant, for a very well-researched presentation and also elaborating on the opportunities that the MSMEs have to establish themselves in the UAE region. Thank you so much for your lovely presentation. I would like to now invite Mr. Brent Melvin on board to make a presentation on making the most of an efficient industrial ecosystem in the Middle East. I would briefly introduce Mr. Brent. As a key management leader at Gallega Global Logistics, Brent comes with over 30 years of experience, 15 years in the Middle East, and extensive knowledge in warehousing and last mile delivery, including e-commerce solutions. Having worked for some of the leading integrators, Brent has recently completed projects in the digital logistics space to develop on-demand tracking and fulfillment solutions. We look forward to hearing from you, Brent. Over to you.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon or good morning, depending which time zone you're in. I'm pleased to be part of the KIZAD and the Indian Chambers presentations today. Firstly, it's been fantastic presentations from the previous speakers, and obviously a lot of that is discussed around infrastructure or facilities. I think the angle I want to bring is from a user of services perspective as a provider of logistics within the free zone environment. So in order just to set the scene, I'm going to run through the presentation of our business fairly quickly, and then talk a little bit about the advantages of why KIZAD and what is brought to us in being able to offer services to our customers, particularly in the automotive space. So we are a business under the Gasanabud Group. It's a very diverse business organization, a lot of different verticals. The origins were in the space of automotive resale or re-export. And we've also subsequently then diversified into various areas of real estate, both within the UAE as well as markets in Australia and Europe. We have supermarket chains within the UAE itself, our logistics business naturally. We have media outlets in the form of Orient and various other catering businesses and so forth. So a very diverse business operation founded under Gasanabud some 26 years ago. From a Gallega perspective, we are a relatively young business. We actually were carved out as an internal logistics provider for the group in 2017 and have subsequently become one of the recognized automotive logistics players within the Middle East, or certainly within the UAE. Much of which couldn't have been done without KIZAD in terms of infrastructure. And as I go through my presentation, so you'll see where we've grown our business. So this today is how we're currently presented from logistics hubs, UAE, Jordan, and Belgium. This is primarily to do with reach to specific markets, and just going to the previous presenters' slides, that MENA region is supported through this infrastructure. And then naturally beyond that is looking at bigger market areas, which is supported through strategic agent relations across the globe. So we as Gallega recognize ourselves as an integrated logistics partner and supply chain expert in the automotive sector. And as I say, this is 26 years of experience gained and now being shared back to the third-party logistics space. We have infrastructure both in KIZAD as well as in Dubai. The primary KIZAD free zone square meterage is 365 square meters. That gives us a capacity of 14,000 vehicles for storage. So that's our stockyard currently. And at present, we have about 6,000 vehicles in storage. Our other facilities in Belgium have an 800 car capacity and Jordan 250 car capacity, all within a port environment, or certainly close proximity to port environment. Also in KIZAD, we have a 6,000 square meter warehouse, which is utilized for multi-product, predominantly automotive sector in the form of spare parts. And we offer the same in Dubai, where we have another facility, 5,500 pallet positions for spare parts logistics for the automotive sector. Then, just move this. Then same that in KIZAD, we have a 3,500 square meter workshop area. This facility is used primarily for PDI, post-production activities, for maintenance and so forth. Whereas in our stockyards, we also do the vehicle stock maintenance. So depending on the OEM's requirements for stock management, there will be obviously time-based activities that we perform on their behalf. Geographical relevance. So for us, KIZAD was an extremely attractive location, particularly for our big stockyard holding. The simple reason that the proximity of operations is very close to Dubai as far as the general sort of other business hub and opportunities, but at the same time very close to Abu Dhabi. So we get to manage both environments in a single source with very, very good road access and network. And I know that this has been mentioned earlier, but from a user perspective, it's relevant in the sense that it helps us keep our costs under control. It helps us to manage our access to market and access to customers in a very efficient and speedy manner. So we really have our entire ecosystem and infrastructure at our doorstep based out of KIZAD. Services in general that we offer as a typical logistics business, you would expect, of course, the warehousing distribution. As I mentioned, the vehicle stockyard management, which is core to our operations. We support that through sea freight, both ro-ro and container services. And again, Abu Dhabi Ports provides solutions in both cases. So it's the access to port and the position that we've got as a business gives us a tremendous amount of flexibility to shift vehicles in and out of port based on either the import, export, or re-export situation. We operate our own assets from a land transport point of view. We operate in the air freight space, and of course, the customs clearance is an essential part of any logistics environment. And as I mentioned, the PDI and post-production operations, this is key for many of our local customers, in as much as when they call on vehicles, we can very quickly put it through wash bay, through PDI and preparation, put it onto the back either of a recovery or a transporter, and either do a door-delivered service and solution or a delivery to a showroom, depending on the specific requirements, ultimately, of my customers. So, as I mentioned, 14,000 vehicles. We've got a very well-trained team. We are very conscious of individual OEM standards, so different fleets will attend in different manners. But in all cases, safety, security, quality of delivered results are key for us. Warehousing, again, synonymous with the auto spare parts. So naturally, the opportunity is to have a single provider providing a very complex solution for customers. Now, again, I just want to touch a little bit on the re-export side when we talk about vehicle stockyard and the investments, and again, going back to the previous presenters' presentations. What Gallega offers is an ease of access to market. KIZAD would obviously facilitate a fabulous support infrastructure and so forth. But if you're testing the water, we're a good means of testing the water in the sense that you could put parts with us, you could put vehicles with us, you can have those vehicles available, duty unpaid, no VAT, obviously within a free zone environment, maintained, managed, delivered. We provide visibility, obviously, of fleet in yard, and then enable that re-export to any of the strategic markets currently being served. So I think that we all understand under COVID, the lack of vessels or the slowdown of the entire infrastructure, previously limiting a lot of access to some of the markets that we service. So naturally, the next step is how do we access markets quickly is really one of the big philosophies of logistics, is get closer to market. And I think that KIZAD or UAE provides that particular access. So it's things to be explored a little bit further. I touched on sea freight, so I'm not going to delve into any of these, otherwise we don't have time really to talk about others. Air freight, by the same token, we actually will provide air freight services for vehicles as much as for any other commodity. We are known for our export of vehicles by air. So typically, whether it's new models that are coming in for testing that obviously have all of these security protocols around it, if you're looking at urgent market deliveries, if there are particular nuances, value of vehicles and so forth, air freight is an option. And then naturally spare parts. Again, it's the urgency to get particular parts to market quickly. We're an asset-based operation, so we own our own fleet of vehicles, carriers, and recoveries. So the idea really is that we control the speed, the quality, and the deliverables to market. Customs clearance is absolutely vital for any market, as you know. KIZAD, being part of the Abu Dhabi ports and within the framework of Abu Dhabi customs, are all integrated solutions. So they're very good at supporting us where there are particular issues or if there's complexities. Our job as a logistics provider is to break down those complexities, working with our strategic partners, finally to give you as a customer the best solution. These are just a snapshot of different KPIs that we manage on behalf of customers, and it's not an exhaustive list. So if there are any specifics that any business wants to measure, this just gives you a feel and flavor of how we actually look at our own business. end-to-end is absolutely key. So this is really what we look at. We're a business that can provide an end-to-end solution, but at the same time, we're also a business that is happy to provide you solutions really only specific to your needs. Because we've got partners on all of our different sides, we can push up the supply chain or down the supply chain as far as you require, to the point where then either you take it over or you have us hand it over to parties in your chain. But ultimately, what we want to do is be able to give you value through driving an end-to-end product. And that's it from my side. I've kept it short and simple because I know we were running over a little bit everywhere else, and I really would love to be able to facilitate any questions, as I'm sure the rest of the speakers would. So if I can hand it back to you, if there's any questions, please feel free.
Thank you, Brent, for giving an elaborate presentation on the ease of doing business. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we have some questions which we will take up. The first question is for Brent. And meanwhile, if any of the participants have questions, please feel free to put it on the chat box. The first question is for Brent. What makes the UAE, Middle East an ideal investment destination for automotive players?
I think, frankly speaking, obviously the proximity to local markets and to surrounding environments. UAE government creates a lot of incentives to attract automotive, and as you know, KIZAD is in fact developing an automotive zone to attract OEMs, manufacturers, and assembly plants here. I think that we have very, very good quality of labor available. I think the pricing is still within the realms of reasonable. We have the space, most certainly. So there's a lot of advantages. And if you consider what the UAE has done over the number of years, it got from one point to the next where it was gaining costs and becoming almost out of reach from many organizations because the costs were prohibitive, to a point now where they're looking at incentives and costs are being rationalized and realized to make it much more sensible. There's also opportunity for 100% ownership coming into play, not only in the free zones, but more recently there's been announcements of open free market 100% ownership. So I think that from a foreign investment, the UAE is really starting to catch up with some of the more modern markets in terms of what its value proposition is.
Okay. Thank you, Brent. We have another question. What are the motorization rates in the UAE and the current vehicle consumption levels? Maybe Venkata would like to take up this question.
Sure, Manjari, yes. You see, for sure, motorization counts as a very crucial statistic, for any investor to look at. And as I had mentioned very briefly in my presentation, it's UAE. I'll just give you some comparison. UAE has 234 cars for every 1,000 people. And then when you put that against a market like India, India's measure is about 22 cars to every 1,000. So, I mean, that itself shows tremendous opportunities. And then the UAE also, it's important to note, has significant headroom for growth, for investors to come in. And thirdly, and this is very interesting, if you just take an example of Toyota as an OEM, they have set up 16 plants around the world, which, whose demand is lesser than about 120,000 cars a year. Now, when you kind of compare that to UAE's car sales, UAE is exactly double of that. UAE's car sales is 240,000 cars. So there is a tremendous opportunity. I mean, probably it didn't matter until now because supply chains were already established and mature. But now, with supply chains being re-engineered, with whatever has happened with the trade wars and everything that we have seen, certainly there is a tremendous scope. And I think we're just beginning to see the green shoots of it developing now.
Thank you, Venkata. There's one more question we have received. It is, does Khalifa Port have regular direct connections to Africa and Europe? How far is the international airport from KIZAD, the Khalifa Port? Maybe Mr. Mansoor would like to take this question.
Yeah, I don't know if Mr. Mansoor is around because he had to step out for a quick meeting.
Okay.
But I'll
Okay.
cover that. See, essentially, the international airport is about 30 to 40 minutes away. We in fact have 4 international airports accessible within 1 hour from KIZAD, and these include 2 airports in Dubai, 1 airport in Abu Dhabi itself, and 1 in Al Ain, which is also part of the Abu Dhabi Emirate. And just about 15 minutes more, you can also kind of access the Sharjah airport, which is about 1 hour and 15 minutes at the most. And to answer the first part of the question, Khalifa Port today is connected to every location, every port in the world. Just to kind of give you, have 3 main, we used to have about 20 global shipping lines. We today have 3 main consortiums. All these are kind of, all these shipping lines have come together and formed consortiums. Of these 2 consortiums, we have 2 of them, of the 3 consortiums in the world, we have 2 of them who have chosen Khalifa Port as their regional hub. So our volumes from the port doing about 2.5 million containers a year is scheduled to hit about 9+ million TEUs or containers in the next 3-4 years. So that's the scale of development that you can get here. And quite very simply put, every port is accessible with direct calls.
So we have one more question. What are the cross-functional opportunities for ancillary players outside the auto sector?
So again, you see now, generally ancillary parts like spark plugs are already manufactured in Jafsa and in a couple of other places in the UAE. Windshields, for example, are manufactured by Saint Gobain. But then these are very, very muted. When you look at the kind of consumption versus what is locally available, there's a huge difference in uptake opportunities. And then the one thing that often gets neglected is the fact that there is no refrigeration and the refrigeration systems in the country being, we don't have, for example, compressors to other electrical components that, because most of these are imported from Southeast Asia or China. So whether it's going to be electric vehicles, I saw one question specifically asking about how electric vehicles are going to change the markets going forward. So whether it's EVs or conventional vehicles, the refrigeration system is going to be the same. So currently, we don't have any compressor manufacturing units in the GCC for automobile and industrial application. So that's a huge green shoot again.
Yeah. So one more question to that. You have already answered the e-vehicle question. And there is one more question on, you've already answered on chat, but for the sake of the other viewers, I'll pose it here. What are the opportunities for the automotive consulting agencies in KIZAD? And similar question, who would, those companies who are providing engineering services, what are the opportunities for them?
Yeah, so I think at the first part is very kind of clear in the fact that all Gulf, the Gulf economies are generally in a state of diversification, but I think Abu Dhabi is right at the forefront. So if you look at the kind of diversification drive that the country has adopted in terms of policy framework and everything that goes with it in the next 10 years, whether it's automotive, and we have about 7-8 industry verticals that we're focusing on. So industrialization in essence is the game going forward. So what I'd also mentioned to the gentleman is what you could do is ideally, we're seeing a lot of interest coming in from India. We have our representative as well, Mr. Karan, who's on the panel. So we see interest coming in from India, from Asia. So a lot of, like I said, supply chains are being re-engineered, which means that they're trying to kind of set up and look for opportunities here in UAE. So the best way would be to tie up with one of your existing clients, and we'll guide all these companies and individuals, with how they can approach the market with whatever data is required to help them and give them the comfort that they need in terms of accessing the opportunities here. And secondly, you talked about one more thing, Manjari. I'm sorry, I that's kind of slipped my mind. That was one part, and you also asked me another question, which was related to the engineering companies, right? So as I just mentioned, I just gave you an opportunity in terms of the compressors which are just not there, whether it's for industrial applications or for automotive applications. We don't have anything here in the region, so that's a huge opportunity, for example, to tap into, for starters.
All right. Thank you, Venkat. There's one more question. I think it is directed to Karan. Karan would be in a better position to answer this. The first step to explore business possibilities in KIZAD for tier 1 manufacturers. I'll club it up with another question is, how can we get more detailed information on KIZAD? Karan.
Okay, thank you very much, Manjari, and both brilliant questions that have been asked. We started the KIZAD office in March last year, and ever since there has been a significant amount of inquiries and queries coming in to diversify manufacturing in the Middle East, and clearly Abu Dhabi stands out very strongly in that aspect. So from our office in India, we do a variety of different things. For example, we play an advisory role to many of the inquiries that come in establishing an entity in Abu Dhabi and in KIZAD. We also handhold clients once they move forward in that step for establishment of an entity. We handhold them right from start to the end of the entire journey of setting up an establishment. And we also provide key insights into market-related information for clients, as Venkata earlier said, to tap into opportunities that they feel could benefit them in the overall scheme of areas. So these are the three aspects that we really look at when we engage with clients. To the first question, Manjari, sorry, if you could just repeat that very clearly, because my audio went out while you were speaking. Yeah.
So the first steps to explore business possibilities in KIZAD for tier 1 manufacturers.
Perfect. So the first step is that very happy to engage with all those people who want to explore those business possibilities. With our team based in KIZAD, we funnel some of these, comments and feedback into them, and they in turn have a wealth of information and data for them to provide the necessary information in terms of providing that very clear guidance to companies who wish to diversify and establish in KIZAD in Abu Dhabi.
Thank you, Karan. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. No problem.
Okay. So with this, I think there are no more questions. So we can conclude the session. I would like to invite Mr. Karan Kapadia to deliver the vote of thanks. I would also like to introduce Mr. Kapadia because he would be the point of contact for all our participants taking forward from here. With over 25 years of experience in banking and finance, advising a cross-section of institutional clients, Karan drives the business development efforts for KIZAD in India. His in-depth experience in understanding needs of industry has won him large, mid-size mandates from companies through a clear articulation of the opportunities that provide scale, which is crucial for the Indian industry. With this, I would like to request Karan to please deliver the vote of thanks. And I would also like to request all the panelists to put on their videos after the vote of thanks is over so that we can take a screenshot and capture this moment. Over to you, Karan.
Okay, thank you, Manjari. And, before I just quickly get into thanking all that organized this particular very insightful session, it's important to understand that the India-UAE relations have only been cemented stronger in the past few years. High-level government-to-government engagements involving trade and industry have really created that necessary springboard, if I can call it that way, for Indian industry to explore and also gain certain momentum and possibilities in scaling up so that they can really operate and participate on a global scale across the world. KIZAD is all about being a gateway for rest of the world, as already highlighted by Mansoor and Brent and Venkata in relation to how the entire ecosystem of the Middle East has been more open towards bringing in international industries into it. It's important from an Indian industry and institutional perspective to understand that the necessary cover power is available for these industries to operate. For example, 100% ownership, very strong legislation in place, ability for them to gain access to funding and finance for setting up of their industry. You've got international banks where KIZAD has signed memorandum of associations with and understandings, so that all this ecosystem is very crucial for industry to really thrive, flourish, and grow in the future. Very insightful presentation, deep insights by Brent in the Middle East and in specific to his area of expertise in the logistics space. I think gave significant, clarity in that direction. A fantastic presentation by Hemant, which really brought out the opportunity that has been spoken about in this particular session for Indian industry, be it small or large or mid-sized companies, in exploring and gaining that level of momentum and scale. Mansoor gave an excellent high-level understanding of the entire development and focus of KIZAD, really drawing inspiration from the fact that the UAE industrialization policy provides KIZAD the key aspect of executing that policy and really supporting international industry in establishing a strong base in Abu Dhabi. And Venkata for really bringing out in-depth, topically, the details of how KIZAD is really helping industry in both the supply chain aspect as well as creating a strong ecosystem of controlling and managing issues, for example, that we faced in the last 7-8 months during this pandemic, and how KIZAD has been able to really develop its industrial zone and clusters in a manner that it allows for industry to remain relevant and undisrupted. I would like to thank Manjari for the wonderful moderation of this program, and also really collating and connecting the dots across the various points that were discussed by the speakers and presented by the speakers, and also to the entire team at MCCI and MCCIA itself for hosting this event. Surely, many of them have worked fairly hard in bringing the event together in this kind of a perspective. Last but not the least, our heartiest and humble thanks to all the participants who have taken out their time to be at this session. I do hope that we can engage with you. And I know there are a lot of questions that remain unanswered, but we will reach out to you for sure to ensure that we clarify some of these questions and will be in a position to really take this engagement forward in the future. Look forward to that.